Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Alex Happ, and this is my partner, Mason Hall. The question we were given as the court was, do people usually learn from their fears? Me and Mason Hall believe that people do not learn from their fears. We believe this because people do not learn from their fears. They just use them to their advantage in the sense that when you overcome a fear, you use it to get a stepping stone to what is next in your life. When you overcome a fear, you move on. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zach Carr, and this is my partner, Rylan Taverner. Our case is that we believe fear is a very influential part of our daily lives as human beings, whether it be fears of public speaking or a fear of heights. We are constantly learning and growing because of our fears. For example, say someone has a fear of presenting in front of the class. That would be a rational fear. Since this is almost guaranteed to happen to everyone, that person will end up confronting their fear. 9 out of 10 times, that person will gain something from challenging themselves. A person can gain many positive things from fear, whether it be perspective or even an internal compass of knowing whether something is right or not. Fear is one of the most important things in our lives, and we will never stop learning from it.
Alright, for example, in the George Takei TED Talk, George Takei, his family, the Japanese Americans, and the Japanese soldiers all experienced fear. They all responded by overcoming their fears and not learning from them. They just used their fear to their advantages. By this, I mean they didn't let their fears be a bad thing in their life. They didn't let it be a disadvantage. They used it to rise above the hate and end the racism.
Thank you, Mason.
Very good point, Mason. But in the text Antajos, Yolanda was scared of the people with the machetes. She was an upper class and she saw poor people with machetes, but it turned out all okay because they were there to help her fix her tire. She now learned not to fear the poor people or even judge the lower class people.
I understand why you might think that with Antelos. That is a very brave piece of evidence for your argument. But in the outside research I've done, I've further gained a knowledge of this. For example, from one source, I would like to keep the source anonymous for purposes of the court. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear that we're just not enough. Fear is a common current that runs through all of our lives. And if we let it, fear can keep us locked up in the prison of comfortable and predictable, which prevents us from reaching our true potential. By that I mean that if we use, like I said in the opening statement, if we overcome our fears, we do not necessarily learn from them, but it unlocks us from the prison that we were in with the fear. The fear keeps us locked down, and once we overcome them, we can move on to bigger and better things.
So then you learn. So as I was saying, technically, if you overcome a fear, you learn from it, and you're learning to overcome a fear.
That is a good point, but I have the definition of overcome right here. I was prepared for you to say that, my friend. Definition of overcome: succeed in dealing with a problem or difficulty. How do you feel about that definition?
It's a very clear definition.
I have the definition of learn too, if you would like it.
Go ahead, say it.
The definition of learn is to gain or acquire knowledge or a skill in something by study, experience, or being taught.
Exactly. And if you experience fear, you learn how to overcome fear.
Indeed.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Go ahead and read the definition of overcome again.
Overcome: succeed in dealing with a problem or difficulty.
And exactly, your problem is fear, right? You learn to overcome fear.
That doesn't mean I'm learning from
You're
it.
using your skills that you practice, that you learn, to overcome fear.
If I'm overcoming fear, I'm not learning from it, because in the sense that when I overcome my fear, I'm just growing into a different step in my life. I'm not staying in the past. I didn't learn anything from it. I'm just moving.
Rylan,
I believe that you didn't learn from your fears. You didn't
expand
even
on
over-
that, please, sir.
I would love to. Give me a minute to put my point down. I believe that you didn't even overcome your fear. For you being afraid of still never going to a building, that means you haven't learned from it. Because if you learned from it, you would be able to go to that building no problem. You wouldn't be afraid of heights because you would know already, apparently, that you wouldn't do that again. So that's what I would like to understand. You haven't learned from it because the only reason that point is the only thing you said is just to stay away from tall buildings. And that is keeping you back in line.
That's
If you
where
were-
I think you're wrong, sir.
Excuse me, sir. May I
He
finish?
learned from that.
Excuse
when
me,
he
sir.
fell off that roof, he said, "I'm never gonna do that again."
I learned.
did not
No,
say that.
listen. From my experience, it was a dumb decision. I learned to think before I do any dumb decisions. Most of my fear did not come from falling off that roof. A lot of the fear also came from getting in trouble or fearing stupid/dumb actions. And which going on that roof in the first place was a stupid/dumb action. Because why would I need to go on that roof ever again anyways? Why would I need to go on a school roof like that anyways? So I learned not to make dumb actions that could lead to big consequences.
Okay. I have another thing from outside research I would like to bring up. That is a great point, Rylan. I appreciate you bringing it forth. I know that was difficult for you to talk about. I appreciate it. From my outsourced research, this says, this is how some of the most successful people learn how to overcome their lives in fear. Learn how to overcome. I would like to point that out. Not necessarily learn from their fear, learn how to overcome. In some cases,
Objection!
In some cases, I will give you that people learn from stupid fears. Not usually though. In rare cases, people learn from their fears. In rare cases, not usually, because they need to learn how to overcome their fears, not learn from them.
In conclusion, fear is one of the biggest things we run into on a day-to-day basis, and it is something to constantly be learning from. Whether you're in a Japanese internment camp, like Papa making wise decisions out of fear of being sent back to Japan and having to start all over again, or Rylan, who had to face the very rational fear of jumping off a roof, and in the end, learning from breaking his jaw that he'll never jump off a roof like that again. Lastly, even George Takei, who was given new perspective on the fundamentals of American democracy that was all based on his fear of the government that put him in prison. Fear always has something you can learn from in your life, and this is one of the most important things we can experience as human beings.
Thank you, Zachary, for your conclusion. I would like to apologize for the rudeness of our classmates. In conclusion, I believe that people do not usually learn from their fears. I believe that people can learn to overcome their fears, but not learn from their fears. Two very different things. In the sense that in George Takei, he was afraid. He was very afraid, and he would not let his fear stop him from being a famous actor and pushing forward in his life of tragedy and discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you.
You did not
No,
say that.
listen. From my experience, it was a dumb decision. I learned to think before I do any dumb decisions.
That explains why you dated Cassie Collier, is it?
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
So you're saying, what was your dumb decision? Not kissing her?
Dating
or not being
Jordan
able to-
Johnson?
My
So
dumb
what?
decision was trying to go after Jordan Johnson. Your also dumb decision was trying to get at JC.
Well, guess what?
What
I
were you
didn't
thinking?
try to get at Jason.
Oh, we did.
And
Yeah.
second off, I got to third. And what did you get to with Jordan Johnson?
Oh my god.
Not even first base.
I'm not even
He
didn't even make contact.
Can we turn all
Didn't even make contact.
Can we turn all this in?